All right, we've got some election results from last night that should absolutely terrify Republicans, but they are already telling us, oh, it's no big deal. This doesn't really mean anything. Now, I'm going to tell you in advance that their excuses don't make any sense, but then I'm going to make that case to you. And then you can decide, are these election results something that we can extrapolate from, or is it meaningless off-year special elections? So here's what happened. In the 7th district in Tennessee, there was a special election last night. This was for an open seat. It was vacated by Congressman Mark Green. Mark Green decided to resign from Congress and take a private sector job. Fine. Now, the Republican did win the race by about 8 points. So you might be saying, well, like, what's the news? A Republican won in Tennessee. That doesn't really seem particularly meaningful. Well, what's meaningful is the margin in this race. If you go back 13 months to 2024, Donald Trump won that district by 22 points. So in 13 months, the district went from Trump plus 22 to a shriveled and flaccid 8-point victory for the Republican. In other words, if you go from 22 to 8, your margin of victory has been diminished by about 2/3. Now, Republicans are writing this off. I was on CNN last night, and I'll have some clips a little bit later for you. And a Republican strategist that was on said, oh, these special elections mean nothing. The opposition is motivated to vote. Democrats put up the wrong candidate. They put up a progressive. And had they put up some kind of centrist, maybe they would have done better, which, by the way, I think is a self-defeating and incorrect analysis of the entire thing. But we have other information from 2025 that suggests this is not a meaningless one-off and that this actually does represent a trend. And the trend is that since Donald Trump became president a second time and was sworn in and did and didn't do all of the things that he has done and not done, Republicans continue to underperform. Let's go back a month to the November elections. In November, in New Jersey, Democratic gubernatorial candidate Mikey Sherrill won her governor's race by almost 15 points, compared to Phil Murphy in 2021 winning by only 3. So, oh, it's a blue state, who cares? Well, it's a blue state that does usually vote for Democratic governors, although not always, but winning by 15 instead of winning by 3 in the following election cycle, in a regularly scheduled gubernatorial election, not a special election, that is big. It's not the only example. If we go to Virginia, remember that Abigail Spanberger just a month ago, the Democratic candidate, won in Virginia, which is much more of a purple state, by more than 15 points. Now you look at the previous gubernatorial election in Virginia, and you see that Glenn Youngkin won by like 1.8 in 2021. Glenn Youngkin, the Republican. And this time, the Democrat won by 15. That is a 17-point swing, a 17-point reversal in Virginia. So where we find ourselves is that we're heading into midterms in 11 months. Every signal is bad for Republicans. You can say all the signals that look good for Democrats don't really mean anything. All right, I mean, it's sort of like buyer beware, if that's your perspective. But you can't say that it looks good for Republicans. The best that Republicans can do is say all of these signals that seem bad for Republicans aren't actually that bad for Republicans. And you know what? If Republicans want to insist that there's no need to worry here, there's no lesson to learn, there's nothing to change, by all means have at it. It is sort of at their own peril. The truth is they are panicking. They're just not being upfront about what their plan is, because their plan is to try to win elections by messing with when, how, and if people can vote. Let me explain that. Republicans are seeing the writing on the wall with all of these elections that are going far better for Democrats than they should. But in private, they know what their plan is. Republicans are seeing this, and they are not saying the logical thing. The logical thing would be to say, hey, let's rethink what we're doing here. Let's evaluate what we're offering. Let's evaluate whether riding on the coattails of Donald Trump is lifting us up or actually pulling us down. Are tariffs helping us win elections, or are they making us lose elections? What about the latest war crime? Have we delivered anything that was promised, like reducing prices or fixing healthcare? We haven't. Let's actually deal with that. That would be the right approach for Republicans. That's not what they're doing. Instead, they are thinking about and trying to find ways to affect who can vote. Trump publicly has said, let's get rid of mail-in voting, for example. I'm putting up on the screen this deranged Truth Social screenshot from a little while ago. It's a complete and total wall of text, which I won't read for you right now. We looked at it before, but this is where Donald Trump pledged to end mail-in voting and all of it. So when Republicans say that they are worried, when Republicans say that they're not worried, we know they're worried, but they're going to try to deal with this not by attempting to win the will of the people with policy ideas, but by trying to mess with elections to win anyway. We have to make sure that they can't get away with that. People like Mark Elias and his law group and others are working on that, but Republicans are worried, but they're not changing policy. They're trying to win by messing with elections.
When I was preparing for my last trip to Italy, I didn't want to spend weeks and weeks trying to learn Italian with the typical apps where you get, flashcards and games, and it doesn't really translate to talking to people. And this is why I turned to our sponsor, Babbel. This is a method that works, and it works quickly. And what really stood out to me was just how personalized Babbel feels. The app was instantly adjusted to my level. I wasn't wasting time on things I already knew. And the review system is really good at making sure that things stick. Babbel's lessons come in 10 to 15 minute chunks. I fit that easily into my schedule. I saw the progress. Before I knew it, I was ordering a cappuccino and their version of a croissant. It's a cornetto. Anyway, I was impressing everybody. People loved it. Babbel is not just about memorization. It uses interactive dialogue, spaced repetition, tips that make the learning feel way more natural. Here's a special limited time deal just for my audience. Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Pakman. The link is in the description.